They watching.
All right, today we are diving into a massive clash of ideas, a conflict that didn't just define a century, but literally built the world we're living in right now.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is more important? A society that's stable and predictable, or the freedom to tear it all down and change it? That, right there, was the question of the 19th century. You had this pull between a desperate need for order and this unstoppable hunger for change. To really get it, we have to go back to where all the chaos kicked off.
Okay, so Section 1, An Emperor's New Order. And the subtitle here really says it all. How chaos created a thirst for stability. See, to get why the 19th century was so obsessed with order, you gotta look at the absolute mess that ended the 18th century. Yeah, I'm talking about the French Revolution.
So think about it. The revolution kicks off in 1789. For the next 10 years, it's just total chaos. We're talking widespread hunger, political violence, complete turmoil. France was broken. People were just done. They were exhausted by the uncertainty. They were desperate for a strong leader, anyone who could just make it stop. And right on cue, in comes this popular general, Napoleon Bonaparte. He seizes power in a coup, and he has one simple promise. I will end the chaos.
And you gotta hand it to him, Napoleon was a PR master. He says, I refuse to be a man of any party. He wasn't some power-hungry dictator, no, he was a unifier. He was above all that messy politics. He was just answering the nation's call.
And the thing is, he actually delivered. I mean, he brought in these massive, sweeping reforms that were incredibly modern for the time. You have the Code Napoleon, one single set of laws for every single citizen. He centralized the entire government, so decisions came from Paris. He set up a land registry, the cadastre, for fairer taxes. He even reformed the whole education system. And these weren't just small changes. He was literally building the nuts and bolts of a modern state and then exporting these systems across his empire into places like modern-day Belgium.
But, and this is a huge but, all of this order, it came at a price. And that price was freedom. This new stability wasn't democratic at all. It was built on pure authoritarian control. The press was censored, any political opposition was just crushed. So yeah, he delivered order, but he completely sacrificed liberty to get it.
Napoleon's ambition, of course, didn't stop at France. He had this grand vision of a unified Europe, all under French control, and that meant near constant war. So after he's finally defeated at Waterloo in 1815, you have all the old powers of Europe, the monarchies, they all get together. And their goal? To put the revolutionary genie back in the bottle.
And this era gets a name, the Restoration. You've got these super conservative leaders like Austria's Clemens von Metternich calling the shots. And their plan was incredibly simple. Put the kings back on their thrones and stomp out these dangerous new ideas of liberty and nationalism wherever they pop up. The main takeaway? No more revolutions.
All right, new section, The Engine of Change. Subtitle, Two Revolutions That Could Not Be Stopped. Because here's the thing, while all these politicians are busy trying to turn back the clock and freeze Europe in time, two other forces were building up. And these forces were absolutely unstoppable. They were about to change everything.
The first force was economic. We're talking about the Industrial Revolution. And it's hard to overstate how big a deal this was. It was this massive shift from a world where things were made by hand to a world where they're made by machines. At the heart of it all, an invention from 1764, James Watt's steam engine. That was the key.
And the impact was just explosive. You can see it in the numbers. Look at Manchester. In 1770, it's a town of about 25,000 people. By 1850, it's over 300,000. Factories powered by coal and iron are popping up everywhere, and people are just flooding in from the countryside to work in them. Cities were growing at a speed that was totally unprecedented in all of human history.
And you have to understand, this changed everything about daily life. Before this, you had an agrarian world. Most people were farmers. Your life revolved around the seasons, the sunrise, the sunset. Your world was your village. But in this new industrial world, you're a factory worker. Your life revolves around the clock, the shift whistle, and your world is the crowded, noisy city. It's one of the biggest changes in how humans live.
So that's the first engine of change, the economic one. The second one was ideological. It was the ideas themselves, liberalism and nationalism. These concepts, individual freedom, everyone being equal under the law, the idea that a people should have their own country, these were the ideas let loose by the French Revolution, and they were spreading like wildfire, posing a direct threat to the old guard of kings and empires.
So, what happens when this new industrial world crashes head-on into the old political order? You get a society that's totally divided. And this creates huge new problems, which all got bundled under one name, the social question.
A whole new social structure just popped into existence. You've got this new super-rich class of factory owners, the bourgeoisie, at the top, and then at the very bottom, this enormous new working class, the proletariat. And you can feel the tension in quotes from the time, like this one about Lyon becoming a gigantic factory, with so many people pouring in that they were burying the old city.
So what did life actually look like for these workers? Well, take a look at this budget. Just imagine trying to live on this. 65% of your money gone, just for food. They were working insane hours, 12, 16 hours a day, for wages that were barely enough to keep them alive. And they lived packed into these awful, unsanitary slums, which in some places were called Balukin. There was really no way out.
And the government? Well, it pretty much sided with the factory owners. They had laws on the books specifically to keep workers down. The coalition ban made it flat out illegal for workers to team up in unions or go on strike. And then there was the workman's bukia, a worker's passbook. Your boss could write notes about your conduct in it. Get a bad review, and good luck finding another job. These were serious tools of control.
Okay, Section 4, the people's response, from revolution to reform. Because when you're faced with this kind of raw inequality, you don't just take it. People fight back. They get organized, and that process creates powerful new ideas and brand new ways of working together.
So basically, 3 different solutions to the social question emerged. First, you have the revolutionary approach from Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. They said history is all about class struggle, and the only answer is for the working class, the proletariat, to violently overthrow the whole system. That's one path. The second path was reform. This was the socialists. They believed you could achieve equality by working within the system, forming political parties, fighting for votes, and passing laws to protect workers. And then there was a third way, which came from the Catholic Church with an encyclical called Rerum Novarum. It basically said, a plague on both your houses. It condemned both radical socialism and heartless capitalism, and instead called for cooperation, fair wages, and Christian-based unions. And this stuff wasn't just happening in books. On the ground, workers were building their own safety nets from the bottom up. It started small. Step 1, mutualities, where workers would pool their money to help each other out if someone got sick or lost their job. Step 2, they started cooperatives, like worker-owned stores, so they could get essentials like bread at a fair price. Then, once the coalition ban was lifted, Step 3 was forming actual unions to bargain for better pay. And the final step, taking that fight into politics by forming their own parties.
And all of this struggle led to this really interesting phenomenon, especially in places like Belgium, called pillarization. Society literally organized itself into these big ideological pillars. You had the socialist pillar, the Christian Catholic pillar, and the liberal pillar. And each one had its own everything, its own union, its own political party, its own health insurance fund, you name it. A person could basically be born, go to school, work, get health care, and die, all within their own ideological world.
So, last section. The unfinished revolution, the unresolved legacy of the 19th century. After all that, after this 100-year-long battle between order and change, where did things end up?
Well, here's the twist. The debate was never really solved. The 19th century didn't end the conflict, it just institutionalized it. It baked the conflict right into our systems. And this brings us back to these huge philosophical questions that thinkers have grappled with for ages. You have Thomas Hobbes, who would say resistance is almost never justified because it just leads to chaos. Then you have John Locke, who says, no, resistance is justified when the government violates your basic rights. And even later, thinkers like Hannah Arendt argued we have a moral duty to resist when laws become evil. The 19th century didn't answer these questions, it just built the modern battlefield where we continue to fight over them.
So what's the big takeaway here? The 19th century isn't just some dusty chapter in a history book. It literally built the world we are all living in. Our political parties, our debates about the economy, our social safety nets, all of it comes from this period. But the key thing is, it left us with its revolution unfinished. And that means its central burning question is now our question. How do we, today, in our own lives and our own society, strike that balance between the need for progress and the absolute demand for justice?
Signal detected. Firewall breach. Begin transmission. They watching. They watching.